Welcome to my sixth video of the Matcha Brokerage Review series, where I talk about and review my experience with various online business brokerages. This video focuses on what it is like to sell with Quiet Light Brokerage to help you know exactly what to expect. In this video, I'm going to go in depth in regards to what it's like working with them as a seller. If you are a potential buyer, then you can go to my previous video that talks about what it's like to work with Quiet Light Brokerage as a buyer. This video, though, is exclusively focused on the seller's point of view. If you're comparing Quiet Light Brokerage to other brokerages, be sure to check out my other videos. So today we're going over Quiet Light Brokerage and what it's like to work with them as a seller. So here's what we're covering today: who they are, what businesses can be listed, what's the process like, all the money items associated with it, how long does it take to sell your business, dealing with prospective buyers and negotiating, the transfer process, overall the pros and cons of Quiet Light Brokerage. Finally, my recommendation: are they worth using? So before we begin, my name's Colin Ma. I run matchabusinessllc.com. I'm an entrepreneur in SEO of 7 years, and I specialize in acquiring and selling digital assets for myself and clients. So about Quiet Light Brokerage. The brokerage was founded by Mark in 2008, who actually sold his own web hosting business and decided that there was kind of a gap in the market. So this is how Quiet Light Brokerage was formed. It's very similar to FE International, how they work. They're probably the two closest brokerages in my opinion. I've also met them at a happy hour in person. I felt like they were kind of standoffish, but that is just my own personal experience with them over the course of 1 hour. I haven't worked with them directly before, but to get the best information I could, I spent the past week and a half to get a more clear understanding of exactly how they work and how the logistics are behind the scenes. So here are a list of their competitors from most similar to least similar. I'm not going to talk through all these points. This is just more of a snapshot in my opinion. It's not perfect, but to me, it's a close approximation as far as what you can expect in similarities. So if you are a potential seller with Quiet Light Brokerage, what is the listing process like? For the most part, Quiet Light Brokerage accepts most business models. However, one thing that we noticed, or that I've noticed, is that they tend to not have drop shipping or Amazon merch sites. I don't know if it's because they don't accept them or if it's just because they decided they don't have any of quality. It's hard to say exactly. They also claim they accept less than 10% of sellers. Don't know if it's true, but if it is, this probably makes them more picky than all the other types of brokerages. One thing that is unique about them is they are insanely good at listing SBA eligible businesses. The SBA eligible business is a business that has been under a registered company in the US that has shown profitability for 2 or more years. What Quiet Light Brokerage does is they take a look at these businesses, they say these are pre-approved. This helps buyers get financing in the form of attractive loans that are backed by the US government to buy businesses. So essentially it expands the buyer pool and allows some buyers to buy businesses with as little as 5 to 20% cash down, which is very attractive to a lot of buyers. What type of businesses do they accept? Their target price from their website is $250,000 to $25 million. They do have sites in the high 5 figures and low 6 figures, but it's not nearly as common, the listing process. Most brokerages, you're able to submit an online form and get a tentative valuation. With Quiet Light Brokerage, they take a different approach. First, you schedule a call with the broker. From there, the advisor is going to give you a broad value range for your business. This is before you go into all the nitty-gritty. If you want to move forward with that, they'll do a detailed client interview with questions like how old the business is, what the daily workload is, what do you do for marketing, how's the inventory. They're going to ask questions that make sense for your business. Obviously, if you're just a content site, they're not going to ask you about inventory and manufacturing, for example. From there, they're going to create a business summary, which is very similar to FE International's prospectus based on the above. And then if you are happy with the final valuation, they will list it upon your approval and email buyers on their email list. The key thing in preparing for a sale is always to document everything. This is going to make the listing process, no matter how you list or how you sell the business, much easier. And it's way easier to do it on a month-by-month basis as opposed to doing it at the very end, right when you're ready to sell. So are you going to get a good price for your site? What are the multiples like, and what are the fees associated? Well, with Quiet Light Brokerage, sites do tend to have higher multiples, which means a good price for most sites, which is good for sellers. But as always, it's based on details such as the earnings, business model, trajectory, diversity of income, etc. Ultimately, yeah, high prices are good for sellers because it means more money for you. Now, for the fees for Quiet Light Brokerage, they take a pretty standard approach, which is similar to a lot of other brokerages. However, one thing that is different is they have a 10% closing or $25,000 fee, whichever is greater, which means you're going to pay at least $25,000. Now, Quiet Light Brokerage does represent sellers, so they're going to try to sell your business for as much as possible so that they maximize how much they can earn. So this might be a little confusing. Here's how it works. So you'll notice, okay, 10% of the first million, 9% of the second million. As the valuation of a business goes higher, you pay less brokerage fees proportionally because the percent goes down. So for example, if we have a $1.5 million sale, you're going to pay 10% on the first 1 million and then 9% on the next 1 million, which in this case is just $500,000. So you're going to pay 10% of a million, which is 100,000, 9% of 500,000, which is 45,000, and add that up. So you're going to be paying $145,000 in fees to Quiet Light Brokerage. So it's listed. Now, what do? You don't really need to do anything at this point because Quiet Light Brokerage, they're going to talk to potential buyers. They do claim that 85% of their listings sell in 90 days or less. As always, it's going to depend on a lot of factors, such as the size of the business, the niche, the model, how long negotiations take, and whether it's going through an SBA loan or not. Doing SBA deals can take a while because there are a number of steps you have to take. You have to write a justification for the loan, which is why you want to acquire the business. You have to get it approved. You also have to create a registered company, if you don't already have one, to actually receive the SBA loan. That's why some sellers don't actually like selling with an SBA option because it can take a while. However, because of SBA loans, you could be getting better offers. So in dealing with prospective buyers and negotiations, Quiet Light Brokerage, they're going to do a lot of the work for you. They answer questions or direct them to you, the seller. They're going to answer as many questions as they can, and if they can't, they're going to direct some of them to you, the seller. If a potential buyer wants a call, Quiet Light Brokerage is going to set it up and actually facilitate the call. They will be in the call with you and the buyer. Now, the call is not a place to talk about negotiations. It is simply a way for the buyer to meet you and ask questions. If a buyer wants to submit an offer or do any negotiations, such as earnouts, seller financing, the length of support, etc., Quiet Light Brokerage will bring it to you, the seller, and advise. However, my understanding is all cash deals for full listing prices are accepted by default, which is similar across all brokerages. So what happens when you accept and the listing is essentially sold? Quiet Light Brokerage actually recommends that in most cases, sellers and buyers hire a lawyer to draft an asset purchase agreement, or APA. With other brokerages, sometimes you don't need to hire a lawyer. You will use the brokerage's agreements by default. However, with Quiet Light Brokerage, the average deal size tends to be a little larger, so lawyers can actually be cheaper than escrow for some deals. Additionally, lawyers can create a much better contract than a lot of brokerages have by default. How you pay is determined by the asset purchase agreement. Most of the time, when you have an actual contract with lawyers, usually it's a wire transfer that goes through, as opposed to with other brokerages, they'll commonly use an escrow. Now, Quiet Light Brokerage, they do assist with the migration process, but don't do as much handholding as FE International or Empire Flippers might do, who will actually get into the details with you. Quiet Light Brokerage oversees the process and guides you, but again, they don't do as much as FE International and Empire Flippers. Distribution and wrap up. So the terms of accepting the business are dictated by an APA, whether the site met the conditions of the escrow or not. And then payout is also going to be dictated by the APA or asset purchase agreement, like I mentioned before, whether you're doing an escrow or a wire transfer. Wrapping up. Overall, how do we feel about Quiet Light Brokerage and who should use them, if anyone? So here's the things I like about them. They are pretty much the only brokerage to highlight businesses that qualify for SBA. Others, such as FE International, are starting to do it, but if your business qualifies for an SBA loan, I would definitely list with Quiet Light Brokerage. They also tend to have a lot of e-commerce businesses and FBA. And another thing that's good for their branding is they have these open AMAs. It gives sellers and buyers alike the opportunity to actually get to talk to Quiet Light Brokerage in an open platform, which is something unique to Quiet Light Brokerage. What I don't like about them. I mentioned before, I didn't have a great experience talking to them in person. They seemed a little standoffish and maybe a little snooty, but I only talked to 1 or 2 people, and that doesn't necessarily represent the firm as a whole. They're very picky with the businesses they list. As a seller, again, they mentioned they accept less than 10% of businesses to sell. So you might go through the process and not be accepted, which could be frustrating. Finally, they have a minimum $25,000 fee structure. But if your business is larger than $170,000, it's probably not going to be an issue. Just due to the way their brokerage fees work, my recommendation. They are great for large e-commerce and content businesses, with the average deal size being much higher than the other brokerages that I've reviewed on this channel. They are the best brokerage for SBA acquisitions. So again, if you're looking to sell your business and it qualifies for an SBA loan, Quiet Light Brokerage is the way to go if you can get listed. Now, again, because of their minimum $25,000 fee, I don't recommend them for people selling sites that are worth less than $150,000. The reason for that is because even though Quiet Light Brokerage has a lower fee of 10%, they also have a minimum, like I said, of $25,000. So even if you sell Quiet Light Brokerage, you'll be paying $25,000. And if you work out the math, the fee for a site $150,000 or less with Quiet Light Brokerage is going to be higher than at other brokerages. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter at Colin L. Thanks for watching.